Okay, in this lecture, we're going to go over perspective drawings and creating still imagery, which is on the computer is how we create renderings or three-dimensional realistic looking drawings of our proposed object or an object that already currently exists. So a perspective is a single view of the drawing from the way our eyes would see it. So it is introducing reality to the drawing, and we are drawing exactly what we see rather than with our orthographics. We're drawing based on technical standards and measurements of the object and projecting onto two-dimensional planes. The same thing with our isometrics and our obliques. We're drawing based on a technical standard and a specific angle, but with a perspective, we are studying it as it would appear in reality to our eye and then projecting it onto the page. There are three main styles of perspective. So there is a 1-point perspective, and then there is a 2-point and a 3-point, and that is depending on how many vanishing points exist. So a 1-point perspective is commonly used for interiors of a building. It's almost as if you had one eye closed and you were looking at a object, versus a 2-point perspective has two vanishing points, and we'll use them still for interiors, but mostly for exteriors of buildings. And a 3-point perspective has a third vanishing point for verticals to converge with. Now, we aren't going to really study that in this particular course because also we need to make sure we've got enough time to cover everything. So the basic principles that are thought about in a perspective is that, again, since we are drawing everything as the eye would see it, we are going to have objects that overlap others and that are sometimes going to be blocking different parts or features out. So we're going to have three-dimensional forms that are overlapping each other, and then we are going to have lines that are converging or meeting at vanishing points. So if these lines continued on forever and ever and ever, they would converge at that vanishing point. So in all of our other styles of drawing, our orthographics, our isometrics, our obliques, keeping lines parallel to each other was essential in those styles. In perspective, we are no longer worried about parallel lines because we want our lines to converge or to meet. Diminution, which is just another way of saying things are diminishing, so they are getting smaller as they appear further away from us. So again, you can really think of that of just in reality, things look smaller when they are further away. And objects appearing foreshortened, or again, things appearing a little bit almost as if they are distorted, but in reality it's just going to depend on the way the light's hitting it and where the object appears in relation to the vanishing points and then the person who is viewing the object. And then the big part again is just vanishing points. So what does the where are our lines for our depth going to be going towards, and depending on where we put those vanishing points, it's then going to have a effect on how the object is going to look. So some vocabulary to go along with our perspectives is first off the picture plane. So the picture plane is this imaginary transparent two-dimensional plane in which our object is projected onto, and it is going to sit perpendicular to the axis of vision. So if this is our central axis of vision, our picture plane is lying perpendicular to it. Then we have our sight lines, which is where our object would be projected based on where our station point or our person who is viewing the object is going to appear. Then we have our horizon line, which is always going to sit parallel with the plane of projection. or the picture plane, excuse me, and the horizon line is where our vanishing points are going to sit. So our vanishing points can sit anywhere on this horizon line, and that is again where all of our lines then are going to go sit or set to converge upon. So again, drawing our lines, we are drawing them on that picture plane to help keep our orientation. So all of our lines that are converging towards our vanishing point versus then our vertical lines in the 1 point and 2 point perspective are still going to remain parallel to each other. So when we are drawing any vertical lines, they're still going to remain perfectly vertical, and you'll see that in the hand drawings to come. I even use some tools to just help keep my lines parallel with each other, but you can absolutely just eyeball keeping those lines parallel. Now, these vanishing points, they can vary based on how you want your end result to look, so you can keep the vanishing points closer to each other. More often than not, if I'm doing a 1 point perspective, I'm going to keep the vanishing point just center of the page. And then if I'm doing a 2 point perspective, I want to keep those vanishing points at either end of the paper or either end of where my drawing area is going to be. But you ultimately can put them anywhere you want, and you'll get a different looking drawing based on that. And then your station point is going to be a huge variable as well. So again, that's going to be the person who is viewing the drawing. And so in this case, my station point for this drawing is right here, but in this one, my station point is further up. And in this one, my station point, actually, excuse me, in this one, my station point is actually up here, and I'm looking down at the object, versus with this style, my station point is further down, and I'm looking underneath the object. So that's going to have a huge impact, and even then if I have my station point over here, I would see much more of this side elongated, and then this would appear very foreshortened because my station point is closer to this side of the object. So that's going to have a huge impact. And then if I'm closer to the object or further away, so again, if my station point was closer, then all of these drawings would appear much larger than what they currently are looking like in this particular drawing. So the height portion of the station point, typically in a regular drawing, we're going to have that station point about 5 or 6 feet off the ground, because that will kind of simulate eye level the best way, and that's what's occurring here. But then if I have my station point, about 20 or 30 feet off the ground, I'll get a drawing that looks like this, and we'll sometimes refer to this as a bird's eye view, because it is if I was looking down on my object like I was a bird flying around. And then if I had my station point kind of just at ground level, or even in some cases, in this instance, we've put it below ground level, then I get what's called a worm's eye view, because I'm looking up at the object as if I was underground. So when you are creating a perspective drawing, I will often start with creating a bounding box around everything, just like I did with the orthographics and my isometrics and obliques. I'll still start any shape off with a bounding box, and then even potentially break that down into a cylinder or a cone or a sphere if I need to. But I always just start off with making boxes, because it is the simplest shape to make and understand. And then I can slowly chip away at it to make it into whatever shape that I might need. Now, when I'm measuring objects and trying to simulate a exact measurement, what I'll do is use diagonals to help divide objects into equal parts to try to help understand keeping these the exact same amount as I go backwards, purely because in this scenario of this 1 point perspective, every single one of these tiles here on this walkway in reality is the same length, but as they get further away, they're appearing not as wide or less wide as we get back here. And then also just for how long each one of them is, it's getting shorter and shorter as I go. And that's just because everything is going to converge at that vanishing point. But to figure out how they get smaller is I can use diagonals to divide and then be able to find my center point to then figure out, okay, where would then the center be for this one to figure out what this length is. So if I'm creating a 1-point perspective, the first thing I need to do is draw in a picture plane. And then on that picture, on that drawing, I'm going to establish a horizon line and a vanishing point. And again, for a 1-point perspective, I'm typically going to have that vanishing point sitting sort of centered on my picture plane, but it can be anywhere. So in this scenario from the textbook, it's a little bit skewed to the side and a little bit skewed down, but that's okay because in the end result, it's going to be drawing a 2-story opened area. So that's why it's a little bit further down in this case. And then I'm going to project out for creating what's going to be my floor and my walls and my roof. So I'm just going to create it as a general cube to start off with, because again, it's going to be the easiest face or shape to work with. And then this is my back wall, my left wall, my right wall, my ceiling, and my floor. And it's as if I was just standing directly in this room. So there technically then would even be a wall behind me. We just can't see it from where the station point is. Then I would start to grid out or measure out some width and height measurements. So in a 1-point perspective, this, and this would all be the exact same. So we're just gridding it out, keeping an even amount on these to then help us kind of establish our width and our height. Because for our height, I've got equal length here, equal length here, equal length here. But then when we start getting closer to the station point or the person who's standing, right here, these lines now are this line here is much longer than this one, but we're still then having that even amount since all of these lines are still projected towards this vanishing point. And that again is just going to help us grid everything out on across diagonals. So once I have those 3 created, I can make a diagonal and I can start to split everything up evenly. If I would need to, I can adjust the height of the room or the width of the room, however I might need to for a particular drawing. So in this case, again, since it's going to be a 2-story room and perhaps it's not a perfect cube, as very few rooms exist as a perfect cube, I can just kind of add in a little bit of height. And then I can adjust the depth if I need to as well. So again, with those diagonals gridded out, I then can use that to establish where a center is, and then I can use that to continue to project out further if I need to. And in our example, we aren't going to adjust for depth because we're just going to be creating a fake building. And then I can add in any interior walls or interior features. So again, it all just starts with a front face, just like with an orthographic. We're drawing our front face head on, and then we're projecting our depths back towards a vanishing point. And so start with our front face and project our depths back. And then if I have any built-ins or furniture, and notice here in this example from the book, everything is just starting off as a basic cube shape for those built-in pieces of furniture. So just establishing where it's going to be located, and then it can be carved into much more detailed looking objects and features. But everything starts as just a plain old cube. So here is an example of just some photography taken from a 1-point perspective. So all of this is just going to converge towards that one singular vanishing point back here. Everything appears as if it's getting smaller as it's getting further away. But really, this statue is pretty much the same size as this one. It's just further away. These people are probably just as tall, if not taller, than this statue, but they are just further away, which is why they're appearing small. So what we're going to do now is do a little 1-point perspective exercise of just creating a bedroom, and I will insert that video here.
Hi, Tom here. In this week's Circle Line Art School video, I'll show you one way to draw a bedroom in 1-point perspective. For this drawing, I drew a frame first, a rectangular shape, in which I'm going to draw the main drawing. Within this rectangular shape, draw a horizontal line across your page, and then draw a cross for a vanishing point near the centre and on the horizon line. Next, draw 4 lines from the vanishing point to the corners of your drawing. Once you have done that, draw a rectangle. Start by drawing a vertical line on the left between 2 of these diagonal lines that we just drew. And then from there, draw 2 more parallel horizontal lines going towards the right. And then they should join up with 1 more vertical line to make a rectangle, which should be the same proportion as either the paper that you're drawing on, or if you're using a drawing frame like mine, it will be the same proportion as the drawing frame, just smaller. Now you should have a shape that looks like the inside of a box, or indeed looks like the start of a room in 1-point perspective. Perspective is a way of drawing that is based on how we see. For 1-point perspective, we're looking straight ahead. 1-point perspective is best used when you're drawing something where you're looking straight ahead, so like inside a room, or looking at a road going straight ahead, or a train track going straight ahead. So in 1-point perspective, we're looking straight ahead at the vanishing point, so that's the direction in which we're looking. That's our view. And the vanishing point is always on this horizon line, this horizontal line. Now the horizon line is a line that shows the height of the eye of the viewer of the image. So I'm just drawing a quick sketch of a person to show the height of their eye when they're looking at this room that we're drawing. Having a sketch of a person will also help set the size of the things in the room. So if this person were able to walk into this room, as they walk towards the horizon line, towards the back wall of the room, clearly they'll get smaller, they'll look like they're getting smaller, but the head of the person will stay the same height and will still be on the horizon line as long as he's still standing up. Next, we can add some objects into the room. I'll start with a rectangle on the left for a mirror or a picture on the wall. The vertical lines of this rectangle just stay vertical and also stay parallel to the other vertical lines in the room, but the horizontal lines of the rectangle, they need to go towards our vanishing point, because the picture frame is on one of the 4 surfaces of the room that are receding from us, that are going away from us. We have 2 walls that are going away, the wall on the right, the wall on the left, and also clearly the floor and the ceiling are going away. Next, we can draw a window on the back wall. Now the back wall is not receding from us, so it can just be a normal rectangle. It's not distorted by perspective because we're looking straight on at it. We're not looking at the back wall from an angle, we're looking straight ahead at it, and therefore it hasn't got any perspective directly on it. Now we can draw a bed. The sides of the bed are receding, are going away from us. So the sides of the bed, we need to use the vanishing point to find where these lines that are going away, these parallel lines that are going away, where they would end up if they were to continue. The horizontal and vertical lines of the bed are not going away from us, so those lines can stay horizontal and vertical, and we don't need to use the vanishing point for those lines. In 1 point perspective, all parallel lines that are receding will go away to the single vanishing point, which is always on the horizon line, and the horizon line represents the height of the viewer, the height of us looking at the drawing. Please visit circlelineartschool.com to learn more.
Now, for a 2-point perspective, we are going to follow a lot of the same principles, but we have 2 vanishing points for our drawing that our lines are converging towards, and it's going to depend again on where our station point is, where our vanishing points are, and where our horizon line sits, is all going to then have an impact on what that drawing is going to look like in the end result. But we're still going to start with just basic cube forms, but the cubes are going to look a little bit different as we start them out. So for the first thing we'll do with a 2-point perspective is we are going to establish a horizon line, and then we're going to determine where our eye level is on that horizon line. And then we're going to establish our vanishing points on the horizon line. So in this case, one of them is on screen, one of them is actually further off away. I would, especially starting out, not recommend you do that, is to recommend that you always have your vanishing points as something firm on the paper, so that way you have something to draw a line towards or measure towards. But for this is going to be an interior of one, so we have our lines converging towards this vanishing point on this wall, and then these lines are converging towards a vanishing point that's over here that we can't see off screen, and the same thing then with our floor. And so we're establishing towards these vanishing points. Then I recommend splitting it into a diagonal to find a center, so then you can establish a grid just to work things out from there. So to find the center of this kind of awkward floor shape, we'll do a diagonal line here to a diagonal line, which would then give me the center of it. And once I have the center, I can draw a line from the vanishing point to that center to help me find my kind of grid to then establish height here and just build out things from a particular grid. And again, if I needed to then adjust any height, I can adjust my height up, and then how far I bring it, again, bring my vanishing point over, find where they converge here, bring my vanishing point over. So it's always just building things off of a cubic grid, but your grid is just a little bit more slanted now. In software like Illustrator and Photoshop too, particularly I know for a fact in Illustrator, just because I use that a lot more than Photoshop, there'll be perspective grids that you can bring in automatically for your line work. So you can just hit a little button and have a perspective grid show up, and you can adjust some of these features, which is always nice. And then again, we can just start by diagonals, find where our centers are, and then we can grid things out. So if this is going to be kind of my stationary line that I want to grid out into different areas, I can keep these at even lengths and then transfer those measurements over to this side based on that vanishing point. And then once I have where they hit on this mark too, I could then draw a connection from vanishing point to that point to even further grid out this side if I needed to or wanted to. And I'll start to box in or grid out different features of the plan or of the building. So again, everything is starting off as a basic cubic form. However, instead of drawing our head-on face or even trying to keep parallel lines, as I start with an initial corner, I'm going to project towards a vanishing point, project towards a vanishing point, and then once I establish what I want my depth to be, then I'm going to flip that vanishing point to the other side. So you're going to see that in the examples we do for perspectives or 2-point perspectives in just a moment. And then I can start to add in some detail or forms to my 2-point perspectives. And then here is an example of a rendering. So this isn't actual photography, this is just a rendering of a building, but done at 2-point perspective. Particularly when it comes to perspectives, another good tip or just helpful piece is to put a person in there to help give a sense of scale. So in the 1 point perspective demo, I just drew my little crude man there just so you can kind of see the size of the room in comparison to the person. And I'll do that as well in one of the 2 point perspectives that we are going to practice in a moment, just to kind of help understand the size of everything that's happening. So what we'll do now is we're going to do 3 2 point perspective practices in class.
Hi, Tom here. In this week's Circle Line Art School drawing, I'll show you one way to draw a chair using 2-point perspective. To start drawing in 2-point perspective, we need to draw the horizon line, which is the line that shows the height of our eye level. For this drawing, the chair is going to be above and below the horizon line, because we're going to look up to it and down at it at the same time. But before we do that, we need 2 points as the 2 vanishing points, far apart from each other. In perspective drawing, a vanishing point is where 2 parallel lines would look like they meet on the horizon. And then we can start by drawing a dot towards the base of the page, somewhere right of center. So from this dot at the base of the paper that represents the front corner of the base of the nearest chair leg, we need one line going to the left vanishing point, and then we need a second line going to the right vanishing point. And then we can add a third perspective line going to the vanishing point on the right. And a fourth perspective line going to the vanishing point on the left. And in that way we've made a square in perspective, which is on the floor, which is mapping out where the chair legs of this chair will be. Next we can draw the front nearest part of the chair as a vertical line from the bottom corner of the square in perspective. And then from the top of this line we can draw a perspective line going to left vanishing point, and then we can draw another vertical line on the left corner, a vertical line on the right corner, a perspective line to the right vanishing point, and then by adding 2 more perspective lines to the left and right vanishing points, then we have created a cube in 2-point perspective. We can give this cube, the top surface of the cube, a thickness by adding 2 more lines going to the left and right vanishing points just below the top 2 lines. And that will be the seat of the chair. Next, we can work out the thickness of the chair. For the front chair leg, we're seeing it going left and going right, so we've got 2 sides to draw, either side of the original vertical line. Using the same sort of thickness, maybe slightly thinner, we can draw another vertical line on the left for the left chair leg. And again, we're seeing 2 sides of the chair leg, one going to the left, then the other side going to the right. And we're building up this chair from the square in perspective on the ground. So we need to work out the base of the chair legs, and then we can draw the lines, the vertical lines, to make it into the chair leg that we need. Next, we can just repeat this on the right hand side. So again, another parallel vertical line, matching up with the first vertical line on the right. And then the base of the chair leg, the left hand side will go to the left vanishing point, and then the right hand side will go to the right vanishing point. And then we can draw another vertical line. Now it might be helpful just to draw a guideline between the base of the chair legs on the ground, on the floor, and then that will help us work out the base of the chair leg at the further distance in this cube. So now we have the base sort of footprint of the chair leg at the back. We can draw the center vertical line and then darken the baseline of the chair leg, and then the left line and the right vertical line too. Depending on what angle you're looking at the chair, you might find that this chair leg is behind a chair leg that's in front of it. It just depends where you've placed the vanishing points and the initial dot for the corner of the nearest chair leg. We can continue the line in the middle of the chair leg on the right, going up further to make the back of the chair, which will be a height which is above the horizon line. So anything below the horizon line we're looking down at, but anything above the horizon line we're looking up at, because the horizon line is also our eye line. So we can draw another vertical line following up from the far right vertical line of the chair. At the top of the back of the chair, it will recede to the right because it's going right. And then we can draw another perspective line to the left vanishing point for the top back of the chair, going left. And then using the middle line first of the back chair leg, we can continue that up and then draw a line either side of it for the left and right hand side of that part of the chair. Next, we can use the vanishing point on the left to draw a guideline so that we can work out where the back of the chair stops in relation to the seat of the chair in this 2-point perspective drawing. So in this drawing, all lines that are receding are going to either the left or the right vanishing point, and all vertical lines are definitely staying totally vertical. Next, we can draw some slats at the back of the chair. I think I'll do one at the top, maybe not quite at the top, a little bit lower down. Now, because I've drawn it a little bit lower down, it means I can have a receding line just above it going to the right vanishing point. Because we're looking up at the back of the seat, we can draw the underneath of it using the left vanishing point. But the actual seat of the chair, that's below the horizon line, so we're looking down at that. Next, we can draw one more slat for the back of the chair, but this one is going to be 2 lines which are going to the left vanishing point, and they are above and below the horizon line. So because they're so close to the horizon line, they're almost parallel horizontal lines, but not quite. They just taper a little bit as they go left. But it means that we're not looking at the thickness of it. We can't see that because it's so close to the horizon. At this stage, you might want to darken some of the lines that you've drawn and just check for their accuracy, and then use an eraser to erase some of the guidelines that we no longer need. So that's one way to draw a 3-dimensional chair using 2-point perspective. So the back line of the chair, we can make that continuous just by erasing a couple of little lines. I think I'll just finish this drawing by adding a few more things to it. If you'd like to learn more about how to draw from scratch, please consider joining one of my online drawing courses. There are more details at circlelineartschool.com. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. If you love to draw and would like to draw with greater confidence, and you want just one course that will give you the essential drawing skills so that you can see real results in your drawings, then welcome to my new drawing course for beginners, How to Draw from Scratch. If you would like to know how to hold a pencil so that you can make the marks that you wish, how to draw a straight line, how to add realistic shadows to your drawings, how to master the basics of both 1-point and 2-point perspective, how to choose where to place vanishing points, and how to find perspective in a photograph, then this course is for you. In How to Draw from Scratch, I will show you all the shortcuts I have discovered over the years, so that you will be able to see real improvements in your ability to draw with greater confidence by the time you complete this course. To join today, just click the link. Hi, Tom here with this week's Circle Line Art School drawing tutorial. One way to draw steps, step by step, using 2-point perspective. Start by drawing a soft horizontal line. You could use a ruler or draw it freehand. At each end of this line we can have a vanishing point, which is a point where all receding parallel lines will look like they meet. In this drawing we're going to use 2, which means we're using 2-point perspective and we're looking left and right. Now draw a line from the right vanishing point towards the middle base of your drawing. It is just a guideline, so it can be quite soft. We only need to use the nearest part of this line. Next, draw another line from the left vanishing point. Now we can repeat this with a new line to the right vanishing point and a new line to the left vanishing point. This will create a rectangle in 2-point perspective, which is lower than the horizon line. Next, we can draw a wedge shape that we will need as a guideline for the steps. To do this, draw a vertical upright line from the right corner and then a soft guideline all the way to the left vanishing point. Then we can draw another vertical line at the back of the rectangle on the ground. Now we can draw 2 diagonal lines to the base of the rectangle. Now we can divide the height of the line on the right, the vertical line on the right, with a series of dots which represent the height of each of the steps that we're going to draw in 2-point perspective. Now, using the right vanishing point, we can draw a series of guidelines which go through each of these dots, going towards the left of the drawing. For each of these lines, we can draw an upright for a step. So we can repeat this process for each step, one step at a time. And all of these steps are going to the right vanishing point. You'll find that your drawing of steps might look different to mine, which is fine, as long as you follow each of the techniques step by step. The reason for this is it depends on the exact angle of the lines of the first rectangle that we drew in 2-point perspective, and also on how high you placed the horizontal line in your drawing. But if you just follow along, you should get all of the steps working really well. Next, we can use the left vanishing point for all of the receding lines of the steps as they go away towards the left. Notice how each of these receding lines stops above the diagonal line, the diagonal guideline, from the original rectangle in 2-point perspective on the ground. Next, use the left vanishing point to draw the receding lines of the top tread of each of the steps. In my drawing, we can only see the top tread for the lowest step. The reason for that is that that's the only step that is below the horizon line. Anything below the horizon line we're basically looking down at, and anything above the horizon line we're looking up at. So we can only see the top tread of a step if we're looking down at it. But when we're looking up at a step, the top tread of a step is invisible and therefore we can't draw it. Once you've finished the first steps of this drawing and they all work okay, well then you could add some more steps on the right. To do that, we use exactly the same technique as we did for the steps receding to the left vanishing point, but this time the steps are receding to the right vanishing point. If you want to make the steps even height, you can read across the height of the first steps on the left, using the line from the left vanishing point going to the right of the vertical line on the right, and then another line from the left vanishing point, again going to the right from the base of the steps. Once you have these two lines, then we can draw a diagonal guideline for the angle of the steps. Next, we can draw two receding lines from the vanishing point on the right, going to the base of the angle of the new steps, and then going from the top of the angle of the new steps to the right vanishing point. Next, we can use the left vanishing point, and this time we can draw a guideline extending the height of the steps on the left, but this time going right, using the vertical line as a guide for where these lines change direction. So in this way, the height of the steps will stay the same on the left and the right. If you'd like to learn more about how to draw from scratch, please consider joining one of my online drawing courses. There are more details at circlelineartschool.com. My #1 online drawing course is called How to Draw from Scratch and offers easy to follow step-by-step approach using simple terms and techniques. Each section teaches fundamental techniques needed to master the art of drawing from scratch. Once you purchase one of my online drawing courses, you get full lifetime access to all content and all updates. So if you're interested in improving your drawing, starting at the very beginning, please visit circlelineartschool.com for more details. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for a new drawing tutorial every week. And if you'd like to know more details about my online courses, please visit circlelineartschool.com. Hi, Tom here. For this Circle Line Art School drawing in 2-point perspective, start by drawing a horizontal line across the middle of your page. Next, we can draw two vanishing points at either end of the line, and then we can draw a vertical line to represent the nearest corner of a building which we're looking up upon. Then we can draw two guidelines to the vanishing point on the right. You could draw the lines freehand, or you could use a ruler. Then we can use the vanishing point on the left and draw two more guidelines going all the way to the vanishing point on the left from the vertical line, which will be the nearest corner of the building. Next, we can draw another vertical line on the right and then one on the left, and these show how far the walls going to the left and right, how far they recede. Then it might be an idea to darken the lines that we need to keep. So the lines which aren't guidelines, but the lines which are the lines of the building, we can make those a bit darker just by pressing more with the pencil point onto the paper. Next, we can use the vanishing point on the left, and this time from the lower right point of the structure, we can draw a receding line, and then we can repeat that from the lower left part of the structure, but this time to the vanishing point on the right. So now we have a cuboid that we're looking up upon. Next, we can start another structure by first drawing the nearest vertical line of the structure. Then we can use the vanishing point on the left to draw two lines receding to the left vanishing point from the vertical upright of the new structure. And then we can repeat that same process by drawing 2 more diagonal lines receding to the right vanishing point. And then the vertical lines stay vertical, so we can place where we want the edge of the new structure to be by placing 2 more vertical lines. And I'm making them so that they line up with the top structure, but it's up to you where you want to place the lines for your drawing. And then we can just darken some of the lines, and now we've got the basic structure of a modernist building in 2-point perspective. Next, we could draw a simple swimming pool, again drawing a receding line to the right vanishing point, and then a receding line to the left vanishing point to make a corner. And then from the nearest point, we can draw another receding line to the right vanishing point, and then we can decide how far we want the swimming pool to recede, and then draw a line using the left vanishing point to show the far edge of the swimming pool. Then all we need to do is just darken the lines that we need for the drawing, which aren't the guidelines. Next, the further corner of the swimming pool, we would see the vertical upright, so we can draw that. I tend to look at the other lines in the drawing to make sure that they all fit together, rather than just concentrating on one line at a time. So I am concentrating on one line at a time, but it's a good idea to see how it relates to all the other lines in the drawing at the same time. Next, we could extend the line of the base of the building, and I think I could make that into a road far away into the distance, all the way to the horizon. So these 2 lines go to the vanishing point on the right, and then I can have another road to make a crossroads using the vanishing point on the left. So as it's coming close to us, it's getting much wider, but by the time it reaches the horizon, it becomes a dot. And all of this is on a flat surface. So I think I'll make the first road narrower, so I'll just change this line along here a little bit. Next, it would be a good idea to erase the guidelines that we no longer need, so that we can see the structure that we've got. Then we can place some windows and any other details that you might want for your building, remembering that all of the receding lines will go directly towards one of the 2 vanishing points in this drawing in 2-point perspective, and all of the vertical lines will stay vertical. Once you've put a few details onto your drawing, you could use some shading to create some tonal values. For this drawing, I'm using a 4B pencil. If you would be interested in learning more about perspective or just generally about drawing, please consider joining one of my online drawing courses. There are more details at circlelineartschool.com. Thanks for watching and see you next time.